I work the graveyard shift at a local shipping warehouse. Most of my job is counting inventory, making sure all shipments and items are accounted for and are tracked through the whole organizing process. Every once in a while, I'll have a coworker on the same shift as me, but usually it's just me. This night was no different than any other. I got to the warehouse and checked in with my manager, who locked up the place and left me to it. I started doing my typical routine, checking all the shipments that came in during the day. As I did, and about an hour into my shift, I passed by a door that I noticed was cracked open. Like it was closed, but just not latched into the doorway, so it was sticking out a little bit. This specific door was on the back of the building, usually where truckers would enter from. I opened it and looked out, seeing an empty and quiet lot outside behind the warehouse. Nothing really to see at all. I figured my manager must have just forgotten to lock it. I didn't have the key to any of these sort of side access doors, so I couldn't lock it or anything, but honestly, I didn't really care. It just wasn't a big deal, at least not for me. I shut it behind me and went back to counting inventory. I was working pretty quick, getting through a decent amount and making it to the next aisle of shelves, when just from the corner of my eye, it looked like something moved at the far end of the hallway. I immediately looked up, but nothing was there. What it looked like, again from the side of my vision, was someone running across the opening of the hallway back there. I thought it had to be some weird trick my mind was playing on me, but it still got my heart pumping for a moment. I shook my head and rubbed my eyes, wondering what was up with me. I debated whether or not to check on it, but initially I decided not to, just because it would slow down my workflow to walk all the way down there, and because I was 99% sure it was nothing. Like, things like this happen all the time, thinking you see something in the corner of your eye, and every other time it ends up being nothing. So why would this be any different? But as the minutes passed, I couldn't shake the small feeling that it could have been someone. I sighed, somewhat disappointed in myself for being so unnerved by this, and walked down to the end of the hallway. This section I never really go to because it has nothing to do with my job. It's just a bunch of shelves full of large pallets, already prepped to be shipped out of the warehouse. Because I don't work in there, most of the lights were off. I just stood in the hallway and looked into the large, dark room for a few seconds, waiting to see if I saw anything move, but nothing did. I left the hallway and went back to work in the same spot I was before. I don't know if it was because of that small situation, but it felt like I just got hit by a wave of exhaustion. Suddenly, I was tired and not wanting to work as quickly as I was just a few minutes before all this happened. I wanted to finish this aisle before taking my break though, so I kept working. But not even 5 minutes passed before I suddenly noticed something in the side of my vision again. I jolted my eyes toward the end of the hallway. I swear it looked like a figure or someone was leaning out from behind the corner, like they were watching me. But now, nothing was there. This time, I immediately dropped what I was doing and hurried to the end of the hallway. Again though, it was dark, and I really didn't see anything at all. I called out, not really expecting any response, but figured it was worth a try. "Hello?" I waited a few seconds, then walked further into the room. It was so quiet, every step I took echoed all the way through the warehouse. I stopped about halfway through and looked around. As I stood there, I felt an incredibly disturbing and unsettling feeling of being watched, and not being able to see anything only made it worse. I hurried back to where I came from, making it to the other end of the hallway, before I glanced back one more time. The darkness in that room gave me chills. I started to walk away to go back to work, when a sudden, extremely loud thud rang through the warehouse. It was metallic, like someone banging metal against one of the large shelving units. Afterward, there were a few seconds of silence, only filled by the faint echoes lingering through the room, before there was another thud. Quieter this time, like a repeated tapping against the metal shelf. It was like they were trying to get my attention, to lure me back into the dark room. But knowing this had to be a person now, and being completely horrified, I ran away. I went to the back door and out into the parking lot. After making it a safe distance, I called for help. I really didn't expect much from the police, at least not right away. But surprisingly, when they went in, they found someone hiding behind one of the large shelves in the dark room. It was a man in his 40s with a very disheveled and creepy look. But even more creepy is that when they reviewed the security footage, they found him walking around the outside of the building several times throughout the last week, and going around checking all the doors to see if they were unlocked. All of these nights, I was alone inside the warehouse, sometimes just on the other side of the door from him. From the short amount that I saw him get dragged out of the warehouse and into the cop car, the guy seemed pretty unhinged and crazy. I don't know if they ever really figured out what he was trying to do, but just thinking about him trying to lure me into the room still makes me really uneasy.